to another episode of Dirt Diamond Sports Talk. As always, I am Ryan with my man Wally tonight. Hey guys, before we get rolling into this, as always, we're going to drop the reminder. You can find us on your favorite podcast app, Apple, Spotify, whatever one you're using. We're also live on the X tonight, and you can find our live videos and archives all on YouTube. So, hey, tonight we're going to wrap up and kind of recap an Astros team that went into Toronto, lost a fairly forgettable opening game there. But then, man, they responded with two completely different but equally impressive wins. One was wild and chaotic. One was controlled, where they looked like, man, they were just doing what we know that this team is capable of doing. And then before opening the Detroit series tonight with another one-run victory, this team has now won 4 consecutive series, only 3 games under 500. Only a game and a half out of first place in the AL West. Wally, these guys are finally playing the kind of focused situational baseball we've really waited to see. They're no longer really just trying to build momentum, kind of one game at a time, throwing spaghetti against the wall, hoping that something sticks. These guys are beginning to stack series after series, win after win. We talked about, before we hit play here, we talked about how Imai is looking confident. These guys, the defense is playing slick. Man, I'm really I don't want to get my hopes up too high, but I think that this team is starting to really put something together. It's got a lot of people starting to talk, and I think that when you look at what this Houston Astros team has been capable of in the past and some of the wild comebacks midseason that this team has really pulled off, should some of the rest of the league be looking in their rearview mirror with a little bit of fear?
Well, first off, they may change the Astros name to Rasputin because they just won't die. Second thing, more germane to what we saw tonight, in the ninth inning, you saw what winning teams do.
Yeah,
you get a hit. You steal a base. Clearly, Jordan gave himself up. I mean, you're talking the best hitter in baseball, gave himself up to move Payne to the third, and Paredes waited to get a fastball up, and he whacked it to the outfield.
Yep.
Then in the bottom of the ninth, Walker makes a terrific play on a hot shot, steps on first, throws to second. One thing I noticed with the Pena fundamentally was so good is that when Pena got the ball, he came forward a little bit.
Yes, he did.
He got that ball.
Stepped away from the bag.
He came forward enough to where there was no way that wasn't Dingler, whoever was, but Green. It was Riley Green. There's no way that Green was going to be able to slide into second base without hitting the glove.
Yep.
I mean, he was
absolutely.
Good 4 or 5, 6 feet in front of the base.
Yep. You had said that De Los Santos was making you nervous. I think he's making everybody a little bit nervous. And this was another.
You called him Abreu. You called him Abreu 2.0.
Yeah.
I think Abreu's more De Los Santos 2.0.
Oh, maybe so. One thing that I noticed is he looked a little flustered there after allowing the hit, and things just weren't coming together for him. Miller came out of the dugout. They went out there and talked to him, and he induced the ground ball.
Yeah. No, it was. He heard Blum say, "Great visit."
Yeah.
Yeah. In a game like this, it's you win on the margins.
Absolutely.
And when you look at this game, the Astros had 5 hits. They had a 161 average. They didn't walk a single time all night. 258 slug of 419 OPS. They only had one guy in scoring position, and that was the ball that Jordan, when Jordan was up and he hit the ball to the second baseman.
Yep.
So when you talk about runners in scoring position, usually you can tell, but sometimes you want to take a look at the context of the game.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, if we're going a
Notice
little
them.
bit backwards, you gotta tip your hat to another really good Imai outing. Six
Oh yeah,
innings, only allowing the 2 hits, no runs, 10 strikeouts, 16 swinging strikes. We talked about the slider last episode or 2 episodes ago after he pitched. And this he's figured this slider out, man. 14 whiffs on 23 swings. 9 of his 10 strikeouts came as a result of the slider. 41% chase rate. Imai's figured something out over his last 2 starts, 12 innings, 21 strikeouts, and not a single walk.
and well, he had one tonight.
Oh, he had
He
one
did it.
tonight, so that was
He had
before
one
tonight.
tonight, and they
You're right.
remember
Two
them
hits, no
commenting
runs,
about it
one
on the
walk.
game on the broadcast that was his
One.
first.
Yeah, there we go.
It was his first walk in 2 games, but
Yeah,
on top of that, he had a .50 whip, 65.6% strikes, and 16 pitches an inning.
yeah,
You know, in the old days, he probably could have gone out another inning, but one thing Joe's really good about is he's good at getting pitchers out of the game when they're on an uptick. He did
yeah,
it yesterday with Burrows. Burrows went 6 innings. He had that one home run again to Nathan Lucas in the first inning, and we're all saying, "Oh, geez, here we go again." And then Burrows comes back for 6 innings, .50 whip, virtually the same line as Imai, who threw 93 pitches, 65.6% strikes, and 15.5 pitches per inning.
yep,
You know,
yep.
you
Well, I
you
mean,
win.
and
You'll take that every night.
all the time, all the time. And I think that with Burrows, that was one of the hopes was, did he figure out this new arm slot thing? Did he figure out getting the ball down? And somebody said he's got that rise to the ball, a little Christian Javier ish type of action now on that four seamer that he's throwing. And it seems as though some of the tweaks, it may have taken a little bit of time here, but some of the tweaks that this team is making right now in way of pitching, in way of situational hitting, in way of defensive moves by Joe, and just using the entire roster up and down, and bullpen depth. What, man, the main guys needed some rest. So Hader and Okert, those guys pitched on consecutive days. King had worked like 3 of 4, and so none of those
Well,
guys were
Okert
available
had
tonight.
Okert had two, and I think so had Hader.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the Okert, or let's see,
Can
Hader and Okert, back-to-back days. King 2 of 3, 3 of 4 games. So none of those guys were really available. So
who was
Joe went to blue ball, stepped in and threw 2 scoreless tonight. We talked about De Los Santos already, but this is where this, I don't know, maybe again, this is some of the stuff that gets me a little excited about the direction of this team. Is good teams
who was con-
eventually have to win games with the back part of their bullpen.
who was conspicuous in his absence?
What is that? What do you mean? Oh,
Abreu.
yeah, you mean Abreu coming back on. Yeah,
Uh,
it was interesting that they
Abreu's off the
decided not to go
restricted
back to
list.
Abreu. Yeah, they brought Abreu off of the restricted list. He went active again today, and yeah, he was absent. They decided not to go with him.
Conspicuous in his absence. They were really playing kid gloves with him. One of the things that's been talked about with the Astros, with guys coming, speaking about guys who are coming back, you've got Lance, you've got Javier, who are down on the farm. What are you going to do with those guys? And one of the things they've talked about is piggybacking them. Well,
Yeah,
that's all well and good, but who are you going to send out of? Who are you going to send down in the bullpen? It's just not as easy as saying, Lance, you and Javier are going to piggyback. Who else is going to go down? And this is
right.
one of the things I don't like about Manfred mandating 13 and 13 position players, and and hitters. The team has given 26 players. Why don't you just let the team decide how many they're going to keep both ways, and rather than going full socialist and having having you have to have 13 and 13.
Yeah. I agree with you. I don't think there's anything wrong with letting the teams have to.
It's
pick there. So
it's their team. If they want to have a team full of catchers and no one, let them have a team full of catchers.
Yep. So let's backtrack a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the Blue Jays series. The first game was just boring and uneventful, right? A 4-2 win by the Blue Jays.
Yeah.
Toronto had a ton of hits, and they figured out how to put runners on base, but they left 13. And so it was consistent traffic. Hunter Brown was not.
He was meh.
He was meh. 3 innings allowing 4 hits, a run, 2 walks, and 4 strikeouts.
Yeah, we talked about this the other night. The Blue Jays, if they'd had any sort of clutch hitting, should have won 8 or 9-2. Speaking of the Blue Jays, I'm going to rag on their fans. Did you see that every one of the Blue Jays had made the finals? Okay. Yeah. Ernie Clement is the highest vote getter. It's their fan, it's their right. It's their right to be wrong. But I posted on one of the chat groups we're in. I told Rocky, I said that the Blue Jays fans demonstrated to the entire MLB how their lack of baseball knowledge.
Yeah. Well, not to mention, still to this day, the Blue Jays fans booing Jose Altuve while they've got George Springer on their team.
Right.
Right. I mean, come on. It's the disconnect.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend, right?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's really ridiculous.
But it was nice to get that series win. The Blue Jays lost again tonight. They're a team that several teams are like this. They can sniff 500. In fact, they got to 500 winning the first game of the series. They've lost 3 in a row. The second game, Peter Lambert was again okay. Joe picked the right time to pull him. De Los Santos was predictably scary. Nate Pearson was also predictably scary. But then you had Hader come in and do what Hader's done. Logan Van Wy comes in, and Joe said that was the last. He said, Van Wy was it. Van Wy was going to. I got the feeling Van Wy was going to go as long as they could. Maybe they'd have to put Abreu in. Abreu didn't pitch the entire series.
So here's your reward. He was restricted.
Oh, that's right. He was restricted.
Which there's a lot of speculation that it was a passport issue, but we don't know. There was no report as to what exactly was the reason for him being restricted. But the only thing that really makes sense is we went to Toronto without Brian Abreu. We get home from Canada and Brian Abreu is reactivated. I mean, the writing's on the wall.
Yeah, Logan Van Wy, nice job. 3 innings and two games, no runs.
Yep.
See you in Sugarland.
Yeah. Thanks for the time, buddy.
Yeah.
See ya. Yeah.
See ya. I hope you enjoyed the spread up here. It's not as good down in Sugarland.
Yeah. No. The same game. Let's talk about Peter Lambert. We have, if there is one, I don't know, man. I almost feel like if there is one name in Major League Baseball that doesn't get spoken enough about how just good this guy has been from a pitching standpoint, Peter Lambert. He didn't have the same control that he displayed against the previous.
He wasn't
series,
as good as he'd been.
But he limited Toronto to 2 runs. in 4 2/3 innings, 6 hits, 3 walks, fine, 6 strikeouts, but he kept the damage manageable because there was a lot of traffic. The Astros built the 4-1 lead or 4-0 lead, 4-0 lead. They lost the lead. They fell behind again 6-4 in the eighth there. Tied it up in the ninth to go into extra innings. That automatic runner in the 10th, Toronto could not get him home. And then they won it with 2 outs and 2 strikes there in the 11th. That crazy ass throw to third base.
No, it was 3-1 last night.
No, that was last night's game.
Yeah, the one you're talking about is when Lambert came in as Joe pulled him at the right time.
Sorry, I got mixed up there. Yes.
And
Santos allowed two-run homer to Varsho in the 7th, tying the game.
Right.
Pearson's the one. That's when Pearson ran into trouble. Yes. Sorry. 9th inning rally, Altuve, Alvarez, and Paredes.
Pearson's got a little nucleus in him. I mean, maybe they ought to give him a garter belt.
Yeah. So, the second game was the game with the catcher's interference forcing in the run, and then Cam Smith hitting the sac fly.
That's right. And then Loperfido hits a home run in the 11th.
Yes.
And
Jordan,
then they came back.
That was after Jordan being walked. And then Jordan, yes. Okay.
And then
2-1, 3-run
hits
homer.
it, and they gave up. They scored the Manfred man from second, but that's the thing they talk about in this extra inning, and it's so true. You got to get at least 2 because one is just holding serve.
Yep.
But back to the game on Wednesday. What in the Fultonavich was Jeff Hoffman thinking?
I said, just call him Mike.
Yeah. What in the world was Hoffman thinking? I mean, he stepped off.
When he threw that ball, he looked straight at the catcher. And so I don't know if there was a sign missed and it was a planned pickoff. What I didn't get to go back and look at is if the catcher gave him a sign, if the catcher gave him a signal to throw to third, catcher will do some of the things.
Yeah, the thing I saw is that Hoffman did actually kind of look over there at the end, and you would have thought he would at least tried to throw it to the third baseman.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, he probably would have got a balk then because you've got to throw it out of base, right? Even to third base.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But man, what a bizarre play.
That was crazy. Yeah, that was crazy. That was I don't know. It was a wild series. Again, the boring game won. The game. You said it. It might have been the most important game of the year for them so far, as being able to pull out that win. Honestly, I'd almost say the 2 games, the second game and the third game, might have been two of the most important back-to-back games the Astros have played all season.
Well, what they're doing now is they're playing clean ball. They're things like on yesterday evening's game. Pena gets an infield single for one reason. He hustled.
Mm-hmm.
He hustled hard, and that gets you an insurance run. So just having that extra run just makes a huge bit of difference. Gives Hader an extra.
Speaking of extra runs, so we kind of did the rolling 25 game record, right? We've been kind of keeping up with this.
Right.
You're saying so they're at one point 30 games ago, the Astros were scoring 3.72 runs. Over their last 25 games, they are now scoring 4.56 runs a game.
That doesn't make any sense.
Over the last 25 games, they have scored 114 runs and allowed 115 runs. It's 4.56 runs a game over 25 games, over the last 25 games.
The thing that I've seen him do is um, the oh, by the way, the U.S. scored in the World Cup.
Did they? Yes. Oh, is that
Their
why in
run,
the that why there at the end of the Detroit game the crowd was screaming USA? Did you hear
I don't
that?
know. No, it happened when
That
we
was
were on
so
when
that was so
we were
weird
here.
at the
Yeah,
end of the game at the end of the game at Detroit, the Houston
I've
Detroit game. They were
yeah, I've
screaming
got the
USA
Astros.
USA in the background. I'm like, what are they doing?
Yeah, I've got the Astros at 4.67 runs per game right now,
Including
and
tonight's game over the last 25.
not over the last 25.
Okay, that's what I've
But
got.
they're
I'm
right at
talking
four and a
about
half.
just
They're
the
right at 4.5
yeah.
runs a game.
Yeah,
What
I'm talking
still
about
is
just their rolling 25 game record. Yeah.
what's really I still come back to what's been so really good is the pitching is it gets better. The team ERA is under 4 now. The starters are still in the low to mid fours, but the bullpen. I mean, they gave up a little bit tonight, but I mean the bullpen is at 3.25 since mid April. The season ERA is at 4.60, but that's just more of a comment of how dreadful they were for the first 3 weeks of the season. That the
Right.
bullpen now, when you look at it, I feel very comfortable that the bullpen's going to come out and do the job. Blue Ball, I feel very comfortable he's going to come out and throw 2 innings, 2 clean innings if he needs to. You know,
Yep.
Okert can't throw his way out of a wet paper bag, but he'll throw that slow slider, then he'll dot a fastball, usually up and
Yeah.
away from a right-handed batter, and he'll surprise me. He did it last night.
Yep.
Um,
Well, I mean, he attacks those left-handed pockets of the zone, and for a right-handed batter, that's a hard reach.
only thing Okert needs to do is get a haircut. That's a bad do.
Oh man, what about
But
situational hitting?
yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, let's
I
go.
thought tonight was a master class.
Cam Smith's sacrifice fly Tuesday night. Tonight was a masterclass. Delgado's that sacrifice bunt on Wednesday. Paredes just repeatedly driving in early runs, knowing when guys are on. Yainer Diaz coming out of nowhere and putting one
Hibernation.
over the wall or knocking one into the opposite field. You know, Pena stealing a base and then manufacturing the run. There's been a lot of. Well, I mean, when we started the season, this was one thing, right? We had that little stretch at the very beginning where we were like, "Oh man, something's changed here. These guys are seeing the ball, they're taking walks, they're situational hitting." And then we met months wondering where the heck all of that went. Now we're kind of back to where there's something that's changed. And I'm not going to say that they're slapping the ball just to put it in play and doing some of these different things that are manufacturing runs, but when you go and you look at the whole of a game tonight, Tuesday night, there was a lot of different situations where 2 months ago those guys were being left on
Oh yeah.
base, and
Well,
now they're driving around runs.
you notice it when it's 1-0. You notice it when
Yes.
it's 2-1.
Yep.
You really notice it. When you're up 9-7, 9-3, who cares? But we come back tonight. Tonight was good, old school, very well played, just really good baseball.
Yep.
When you have your best player, you're the best hitter in baseball who's giving himself up. That's an example that everybody's going to follow.
Yes.
It just is.
Yep.
They're doing the little things to win. Early in the season, they were doing the little things and the big things to lose.
Yep.
Now, let's not get ahead of ourselves. They're still 3 games under 500.
Mm-hmm.
They're still a game and a half. They're uh, they're still 2 games out of Seattle in the loss column. We're halfway through. Pretty much everybody's played half the season. They've still got a negative 38 run differential. Now, granted, that's a lot of it is April. Thought we were going to get some help today, but the A's and the Rangers both won. Somebody's got to light a fire under the Blue Jays, because that's 3 in a row the Blue Jays have lost.
Yeah, we need some help, Blue Jays. Come on.
Yeah, we need some help. Seattle played Pittsburgh today. I don't know where do they go tomorrow, but they lost in Pittsburgh today, got strummed pretty well. I keep on looking. Everybody's even talking about the Mariners. Well, they'll run off and win it, but tomorrow the Mariners go to the Guardians, and they've got Luis Castillo, who's been batting practice against Cantillo, Joey Cantillo, who's been pretty good. At some point in time, you're no longer supposed to. If people think you're going to run away with it, that collar gets pretty tight. And when are they going to do it?
Yeah.
I do think, like you and I were talking the other night, 85, 86 wins could easily win this division.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think that when you look at what's been going on, and nobody's willing to take off and run with it. I mean, Houston is 7-3 over its last 10, 3-game winning streak, four consecutive series, half a game out of the wild card, game and a half out of first, 3 games below 500. This is the team that just needs to keep winning series, like we say. They don't need to go on a 10 or 12 game winning streak. Just keep repeatedly winning 2 out of 3. And like you said, you're going to make that game a week up.
Yeah. What I like about this, what the Astros are doing is that, as you just said, I was about to say the same thing. They aren't going off and winning 9 in a row. They're winning 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4. Yep. Just steady. It's a pace that you can keep. I think sometimes when teams get on a long winning streak, they can exhaust themselves, and then you see a lot of times when they'll win 8, 9, 10 in a row, and then they'll lose 4 or 5 in a row. That bubble comes out, and they slack off. I know they mean to slack off, but when you've had that many wins in a row, it's hard not to exhale a little bit when you finally lose a game. The next thing you know, you might have lost 3 in a row. What the Astros are doing is sustainable, and they're playing fundamental ball.
Absolutely. I mean, and if you look at the rest of their schedule until the All-Star break, you've got the rest of the series with Detroit. You've got the Twins at home. You've got the Rays at home. And then you go to DC, and then you go finish off at Arlington, South Oklahoma, before the All-Star break. So you win those series, you make up some ground. This is a team that could be, they could be staring down first place in the division. I mean, shoot.
Yeah, what I'm looking at
next week,
the Astros missed Skubal, so you better at least split this series.
Yeah, you got it.
You'd like to win 3 out of 4, but you come out splitting this weekend series, you don't feel too bad. You got the Twins coming into town. You really should take at least 2 out of 3 out of that. And then Tampa Bay coming in, you got Rasmussen, McClanahan, and Griffin Jacks. Those 3 pretty good pitchers. But then, the Mariners, the Rays have fallen off some. They've lost 4 or 6 of their last 10. They won a couple in a row, but they're not the juggernaut that they were earlier in the season, and it's at home.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, something you talked about earlier is being 500 by the All-Star game. That's very attainable.
Yeah, I think so. Looks that way.
Now, Do I still feel good about my 82-80 to start the season? Yeah, I kind of do. I mean,
It
I don't.
might
I
be.
you're yeah. Truth be
They're
told,
playing 97 win baseball right now over their last
truth be told,
25.
I think they're going to be somewhere between what you said and what I said.
Yeah, I think so. I think so
You
too.
said
I think so.
87. I said 82.
I had 88.
You
But
had
yes.
88. Okay, but it's
Yeah.
in the middle,
Yeah.
and it wouldn't surprise me to be 80. See them win 85 and miss the playoffs again.
Yep. Yep.
But
I
I
want to
mean,
give
who
a
kn-
minute
like
to Cam, I want to give a minute to Cam Smith. This kid 2 years ago was playing third base, and he's out there playing Gold Glove defense in
Yep.
right field. Not to mention his offensive contributions to this team. Is Cam Smith is Cam Smith potentially the reason that Dana Brown gets to keep his job?
I don't know. But to go back and talk about Cam, if you wanted to see why the Astros are surging and the Blue Jays are sliding, you can look at that play that Cam made in right field. He went up and got the ball. It was a very athletic play, but then he gathered himself and made a easy good throw to
Hell of
second
an
base
easy throw. Yep.
while Urias is picking his nose down around
What was
third
he
base.
doing? What was he doing? That dude played hopscotch between second and third for 10
well that
seconds while that ball was in the air.
that whole series was an example of why the Astros are surging and the Blue Jays weren't. The Astros made winning plays,
Yes.
the Blue Jays made losing plays. We've
Yes.
talked about most of them. But yeah, Cam is still hitting 221 and he's hit 221 steadily for the last 3 or 4 weeks. He's been right at 220.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's enough for Dana to keep his job. I do think that there are some really encouraging signs on the farm. You've got Wazo, you've got Nayans, you've got Alvarez, you've got Schiavone. Is that the catcher at double A?
It's something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got Ethan Pecco who's really pitching well for the first time in a while. You're seeing some guys come through the farm that you could legitimately say in the next year or so can not just make the team but be competitive.
Yep.
You get Zach DeZenzo's at AAA. I don't know if Zach really sees another hard look. I think they've seen what they want to see with Zach.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I don't know if there's anything special there.
I mean, I think he's the kind of guy that I could see them in the off season, move for a change of scenery type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, he may be one of the trade deadline guys.
Yeah, he might. But I think that
is. I mean, now that you're looking at Loperfido and Trammell and what these guys have kind of, with Cam and Jake just kind of being Jake. I mean, the Astros kind of have their solution to the outfield right now.
Yeah, I think they've got close to it. And Jake is not, I had people ask me, so why isn't Jake playing? I said, well, he's not hitting.
Yeah.
And you've gone through those situations a lot where Jake plays when Jake plays more that Jake hits better. But the thing with Jake is that Jake's upside is a very average hitter.
Mm-hmm.
You see Matthews playing more center field because they see he's as athletic as Jake. He doesn't go get the ball as well as Jake, but he's still plenty good, and he's got upside if he can keep striking out. He was doing well, and he's gone in the tank again.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure the Bryce Matthews experiment it's a roller coaster ride.
He's a rookie. You got to
Yeah.
expect that.
Yep. Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
here we go, and we've won the first. We've got won the first game of the series, and so let's win at least one more, and you guarantee a split.
Yeah, I think so. 14-11 over the last 25. One last fun stat here. In games decided by 2 runs or fewer, the Astros are now 10-4. This was something that we talked about multiple times, that this team had to figure out how to win close games, and it seems as though they've started to figure that out. They've
Yeah.
figured it out. They've
Well,
figured it out.
that's what happens. When you play clean baseball.
That's right. That's right. Well, let's keep playing some clean baseball. Let's keep putting it to Detroit over the weekend here. That's going to wrap it for now, guys. Thank you so much for catching us on another episode of Dirt Diamond Sports Talk. I'm Ryan. That's my man, Wally. Until next time, let's go Stros.
Stros.